experience. Like I thought if there is some time, I just let this on as the first slide. But basically, we can start immediately. And yeah. Anyway, I am Marina Urosevic, and the whole lecture, I somehow, not lecture, oh my God. The presentation I made literally yesterday and today. So it's a bit of a sort of a mock-up, and I'm just gonna randomly talk about some stuff and try to remember the important things I wanted to share. Basically, I just wanted to make a short intro about myself. I've been at EASA like since 2014. This is ever first photo of EASA that I have. I don't know, ever since it was a quite interesting experience for me. And I've been like tutoring a lot of workshops. Last year we were organizing the event in Serbia, and it was a very exceptional experience, altogether. So basically, this is 2018, like my last EASA as like really taking part in it. And then in 2020, I made like a few years break, and then 2021 we were organizing. I most appreciate about EASA this somehow, like coming to a place where so many people with a similar mindset are, but okay, still very different. And lots of people who are ready somehow to take action, to somehow work on creative problem solving and so on. So for me, this especially this tutoring part was very I don't know, I somehow found myself in those things. And they also sort of helped me a lot on a personal level, where I could really somehow, with support of the whole community and also with support of myself, like to somehow discover what like what I want to be when I grow up, or like to discover like what I'm good at, what I like to do, what really fulfills me somehow. And I found a few of those stuff at EASA, and tutoring and this like working together with a group, coming to some conclusions together, creative problem solving and so on. I'm going to talk next about EASA Reality that happened last year from 1st to 15th August in this military complex, Duke's Arsenal in Kragujevac in Serbia. Also to say that I live in Austria for the last 10 years, and I am from Serbia. So for me, this was also important from that aspect, like to contribute somehow to the homeland, and also to see how the situation can develop there. So the whole organizing thing, I mean, some of us had full-time jobs. It was pandemic and we never really organized any huge events. So this was quite a big challenge. The biggest problem was that every time when we were planning, we never knew it is going to happen. So it was a bit like Don Quixote, like this fight with the windmills. Like you're supposed to ask some sponsors or someone to invest some money, and you are not sure even if the event is going to happen. So what actually do you tell to them? That was my biggest struggle in the mind, like how to somehow solve this whole thing and somehow convince people to support us. But all of that went by, like it was quite a hard work, sure to say. We don't have to dwell around that too long. Like the whole theme reality, this is somehow where it this was the how it came to be, sort of. But this is not something that we could continue to develop in that measure. In Serbia, there is this culture of reality TV, like it's very present in all media, like 24 hours a day, like it's streamed on national frequency. And it's really portraying some, you know, like the very, it's very opposite of how things should be, sort of like it's going to this bizarre uh, way completely. So this was like the first association, like hey, like reality TV, maybe commenting on this media control, on you know, the whole media politics and so on. But then we somehow okay, we continued to investigate the theme, and we had lots of like we were like reading Jean Baudrillard, some theories of his about the real and all different types of realities and so on. And also we were inspired a lot by Jack Self and Real Foundation. Um, but also those events, such this one, as you can see on the photo, were very inspiring. Like in our local realities, you that visited the event and probably know what's going on here, but for you who were never there, so this was like very something that would happen almost every day in Serbia. They are paving the city center, basically. This is the street next to the main square of the capital of Serbia, of Belgrade. So it's center of the center. And what's going on there, those cubes, which are supposed to be granite cubes, are cubes which are with there is one layer silicon, and on the top of that, actually concrete cube, silicon, and 1 centimeter layer of granite. So someone was just like laundering money through the main square. And then when people figured that out, because those cubes started to break under the wheels, they just had to do everything again, you know, like to take out the cubes and to put new ones. And that was like, you know, poor people like repeating this whole process. It was also a bit funny, but anyway, so the whole team reality somehow also started to engage a lot of politics questions about what's the reality of architectural practice on local context, also on global context, and what can we do about it in EASA context. Then we had this, okay, I don't know where to move those things, so we don't, maybe like this. So then we also were like questioning the on the global context, what what's going on in the world, short said. And there was this bizarre event like a few months after the Amazon forest was burned, like there was this big fire, and a few months after that the Notre Dame was set on fire by accident. And all countries were like, oh, like fighting who is going to invest more, even Serbia, that, you know, like has to use concrete cubes. But that's, yeah, quite odd. And then we have this situation like where architects want to be architects and somehow being opportunists. So the whole question was like, okay, like what's going on? Like, you know, like in our practice, in this connection between what do we do in the offices and what actually are we taught to do at universities, like all of those discrepancies and so on. Then there is also this question about the EASA reality, and actually that somehow what I wanted to say. Yeah, like here I wanted to accent this bubble, EASA bubble, and I was always thinking like, okay, EASA is like sort of utopian space, but it actually, exists. It works perfectly in a way. It has quite a big strength for, like it's constantly, like it exists for like for 40 years or so. And like people really invest their time, energy, and it's a strong community. But I see that it didn't really somehow evolve many in some different ways, or in some to try to be to further itself. But basically, what I here wanted to say is that I always believe that we that got to be part of EASA, and that's not a very big number of people. I think that we have this big responsibility to try to understand and deal with those realities. And that is somehow how this whole theme, reality, for me personally, like is accented, like is the that's actually the most important part, like to um, question, like to see and try to understand what realities there are, and then to discover in what way do we want to deal with them. Uh, and that's basically, as I said, responsibility of us, like privileged, educated people, especially that had a chance to live and work at EASA for so many years. That we are the ones that are supposed to, in my opinion, the ones that are supposed to do something about it. Um, so from here, actually, yeah. So this is this picture of a big force. um, so like from all of that, somehow, because we had this main theme, reality, but the sub-concept was reality laboratory, or as we called it, real lab, but we were totally wrong because it's reality labs. So uh, what I wanted to say, like this, everything what I just said, like about how EASA is like sticking in this bubble, and didn't really, further itself. Maybe it didn't further itself. I believe it didn't, but many people would probably disagree. So that's why this idea came to be, like from this very simple feeling, okay, this is great, I enjoy here, it's like people work together, you learn, you contribute, you just like, you feel good about it in the community and so on. So I was always like wondering, okay, 2 weeks, like this is working. Why isn't this working also? Like for 4 weeks, or a few times a year, or maybe in some different places. So that's how reality laboratory sort of came to be, and this was from our bidding in Trapeza, when we actually want to host EASA in Serbia. This was the sentence describing Real Lab. Real Lab will be a physical space, incubator of ideas and projects that share EASA principles and the EASA spirit. It is a reaction derived from realization that EASA, by its current defined model, can provide solutions and methods only to a certain extent. So we are sort of just, as said, like criticizing this short reach of EASA. Okay, I am completely aware of how long reach of EASA actually is, like how it is affecting individuals who are then contributing maybe in their own local surroundings and so on. But I'm just always saying, like it's too big potential and the reach not enough, in my opinion. So that's what Real Lab would somehow try to do. And here are like a few lines of how we wanted Real Lab to work. To create a place for long-term collaborations, enable more realistic time frame for projects, satisfying a demand for alternative education, recognizing the EASA 2-week events as a catalyst, and evoking a chain reaction. Uh, so basically, this is you are, I think, probably all familiar with some version of Reality Lab. I mean, because of EASA Commons, but I'm going to talk later about that. Uh, so basically, altogether, I try to explain like this personal and objective necessity of real labs. And, you know, like, why not? It's like if, you know, we can try and then we can fail and or we can succeed, but I think that it's the good way to go. So reality of EASA Reality, I'm just gonna talk about a bit, show you a few photos and see what was going on in Serbia. And photos are very random, like I just picked 5 first ones. So this is one of the workshops. Um, I wanted to say that like we were very satisfied how people responded to the theme, to the whole event. That we had a bit another difficulty because there were many new people to EASA, like, and just a few like the older ones who can actually forward the whole experience and so on. But still, we all managed, and it was a real thing. And yeah, I don't know, feedback of those people who were there for the first time, like in Crazy Serbia especially, was very good and overwhelming. And I don't know, like altogether, when it started, I thought, okay, it's this is, you know, like it's we're gonna fail big time, but everything just started to go super smooth. And you know, like people make it work, sort of. It's like in the end, it's okay, you try to prepare everything, but then everyone else is just like, you know, picking up stuff and doing everything. So, and the event is yeah, on. So okay, sorry. This is the location that was initially targeted. This is a military complex. This is one beautiful part, actually, of, of the military complex arsenal. But we didn't really get this space like to use. And this space is like has a very interesting like architectural history and value also. And it is abandoned like for last 30 years. No one is really taking care of it. It was locked until like 3, 4, 5 years ago or something, and now it's open, but like the roofs are falling down. And this chimney, it's like you can't touch it, but you know, like it was quite bizarre situation where people who are dealing with preserving of monuments are not doing, you know, I mean, maybe they are doing something, but you know, like after 30 years, nothing is done. But this object is still on the list of like very important cultural objects that you cannot really interact with. So it's a bit bizarre, like a thing what was going on there. So we used this space, like just this square, like, and also we had the big fence around this chimney. So we couldn't really penetrate those spaces because they were dangerous. And we were like here, and we were also quite a lot using this school. This was the first school, the first high school in Serbia, actually. Here it looks quite new and quite good, but now it's a bit also it's abandoned. Uh, like the floor is going like this, so it's yeah, but it's just like around the corner from this arsenal complex, and we used in school and that plateau for the workshops. And we were sleeping in another school, which is just next there. But that school is in use, so we had some infrastructure there. But this school, the old one, was like for workshops and for some parties and so on. This is just like hanging in front of the school. I don't know, some meeting. Uh, those are our supporters from Kragujevac, especially girl on the right side. She really helped us a lot, and with the whole project and with the local collaborations and finding some funds, applying for cultural support and so on. Behind them is, I didn't really put accent on any workshop, so here I'm also not gonna talk much about workshop, but this is Sokolana EASA. It's one very important building in the city, like is the first worker area, like first, okay, doesn't matter. We had some carnival there, of course. We had some lectures. We had some swimming and some vibing on the pyramids. People were happy. Jack got married to 5 girls. So aftermath, like this is the recent thing that happened like a week or 2 weeks ago. We won the first prize at Belgrade Salon of Architecture in the category Experiment in Architecture. Here it's very important not that we won the prize. It's like it is definitely a good feeling, but it was very important that we won it at this salon and in Belgrade, in Serbia, and that somehow in this way we can also promote this type of learning and doing. So people can hear a bit more about EASA, that students can get a bit more interested and so on. So this was very valuable because also this news was like everywhere, like yeah, in Serbia it's important who won what, I guess. So then what another thing that have happened in Kragujevac after EASA, okay, we like to believe that also our event contributed to that, but maybe even not. Anyway, now I think it's still lasting. They made the competition for developing the complex of Duke's Arsenal. But it is the whole complex. It has it's a huge area, not just those places that I showed you. So they are also inviting for people to suggest urbanistic urban plan and also some architectural solutions. What I wanted to say is that most of the times in Serbia, those competitions don't end up in building. So this is just something where someone will, I don't know, get some money or do something with some money. Hopefully, the whole revitalization project process is going to start at some point. Filum, there is this faculty of architecture and art, I think that's the name, in Kragujevac. And this faculty was always like pushing to get spaces in the arsenal. So now there is some stories about that, like that might gonna happen in some recent future, but everything is still uncertain, especially that our president was again re-elected like 3 days ago. So then this is also a bit of aftermath. We had some, like, I like to believe that this was because of lack of structure and that we wanted to believe in consensus, but then we figured that it really doesn't exist. Some disrupted relationships and lots of burnouts. like lots of being super overworked. But that is behind. And what is in front? I'm joking. We still have some money left over, and we plan to invest it in some future projects. We still have no idea what that is going to be, but we are going to figure something. Maybe that is Reality Lab, because I wanted somehow to set the accent of this whole thing on Reality Labs and the future, and also somehow to say a few things like what was going on in Serbia and so on. But basically, Reality Lab during and after EASA Reality. During EASA Reality, we didn't really set any focus on Reality Lab because it was just, you know, like we couldn't manage like we wanted maybe to make some workshop about it, to do this, to do that, and not enough time, people, and so on. But actually, Reality Lab was sort of EASA, like in Kragujevac. So after EASA, we just somehow went to, you know, like to have a long rest, to commit to some things that we have left behind, to continue with our regular jobs and so on. So there was not much talk about Reality Lab in future, like in Serbia or in Kragujevac. But I believe that it is something that is very possible to be done in, I don't know, if not this, then maybe next year. There is definitely, yeah, I mean, I have cut out this part because it's written that hubs are established and existing in Serbia. So not really yet, but the spirit is there. So yeah, I mean, if we continue doing some things, I think that Kragujevac would still be a good option. First of all, because of the decentralization of culture, which is very needed in Serbia. Second of all, maybe even this is actually first of all, because we have a very good like support from local from locals and local architects and university in Kragujevac already. Then dream bigger. This is another thing like that I tried to do at some point. I think it was like the end of last year or something. There was this at Angevante, like university, there was the Action for Sustainable Future, like project writing competition. Where they would support like projects from architecture combined with culture and so on. I didn't submit the project. There was couldn't manage like write everything by myself, and some people didn't have time, and it was just like zero time. But this was the main idea. I can shortly, but the accent is okay. We don't have to read this. Let's make real labs in 3 countries, because it was the one of the goals also of the project, like to have this communication with different European countries, even if Serbia is not considered to be in Europe. But I somehow tried to sneak in Serbia. So so the competition was in Austria. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I started to write this and somehow to shape it up, like to try to figure out some program and so on. So I would get some funds, you know, for every real lab that want to happen wherever. But here in the last sentence, I was like, Reality Labs will be active throughout the whole year and have at least one ongoing long-term project as the core activity, potentially accompanied by short-term workshops, events, or residencies. Okay, I here cut out the text, but that's pretty much the story here. So the question is, should we dream bigger? Maybe, you know, like, why not? Then what are our next steps? Setting up the real lab in Serbia, why not? creating local team program website, applying for funds, collab with EASA Commons and Sheffield Reality Lab, like to see what people are willing to work further on projects, to somehow, you know, shape up the whole thing, and to try, even if we have some money left over, to still try to find some funds, and to see like how can we somehow still manage this whole network between different reality labs, if this story somehow continues to be like so this is very important for us, and maybe the biggest, the most positive after not like aftermath, but like something that have happened after the whole event, that the whole reality story was somehow and acknowledged, and that that you guys somehow wanted to continue with the Reality Lab story, and that you are already actually acting on it, which is wow. Like, I mean, it's, when you look at it, it's quite a simple thing, but it's not really, and you just like did that. So this is those are lines from your website, like a space for developing proposals, holding longer workshops for people in between realities, body system. That's what you are already offering, and very important, like this whole continuity thing. That is, I believe, very, very good always to mention. There are some EASAs in between, but some topics that I believe we're trying to follow each other in a sense, were EASA 2018 in Croatia, then EASA Reality and EASA Commons. But I like to somehow EASA was like using this prefix re, like for everything, rethink, redo, re, like to try to understand like what's you know, like to understand the order of things in a way, like to rethink it, like to see where maybe where it all went wrong, or I don't know. And then in reality, it was like, okay, what's really going on, and should we do something about it? And then I see now Commons as like you guys being like, yeah, we're doing something about it, and this is exactly what we're gonna do. So it's a really logical way of things how they went, and it's, I don't know, I'm very, very happy that you somehow made this like very concrete suggestion of like creating EASA Commons and asking questions, very direct questions about the land ownerships. Yeah, and I think that's it. This is little cow with a kiss. Yes. Thank you, everyone. I hope you could understand. I was a bit nervous in beginning, and I don't know what I said, but now it's good. I can stop sharing maybe. So basically, if you have some questions, if you want to say something, if you know, but yeah, if not, that's also cool. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.
I'm going to ask a question. So is your like reality lab, real lab thing continuing in the UK, considering that they've got like quite a similar concept in the sense, like, I believe in UK they're going to be taking up a space and trying to shift it into the space where like EASA needs to go to like study and work and whatever. which is similar to what you said, no? Like a physical space to bring EASIans together and...
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's the whole continuity thing I somehow wanted to talk about, like that, you know, the whole real lab thing that we proposed, it is similar to this thing and it's pretty much the same thing. But also, like, that doesn't mean that it has to be like that. It's like I'm always saying, like, in my opinion, because you know, like, lots of people are thinking about this and working on it. So I really believe that it depends from who wants to organize it and how do you want to set it up. It can be maybe a small conference real lab. It can be someone's house. It can be, you know, like whatever, like virtual or physical infrastructure for people somehow to meet, collab, work together. Or, and I mean, they did that, as I understood, like offering working space and so on, because you know, out of some different reasons, you know, which is great. And they decided to, you know, follow also this actual topic of like people fleeing their countries, maybe in a need of space, and also to follow somehow the what we suggested, like the whole real lab thing, and trying to make this whole connection between the events, which I believe is very important if we want to create something which can make even more sense, you know, and if we really want to maybe even long term work on some stuff and not just have this 2-week festival type of the things.
That's pretty cool, because like for UK, I guess the permanence would be in the actual space, and then people are coming and going. Whereas what you're talking about then is more the permanence is in the group of people, kind of, and then the space can be anywhere as long as like there's collaboration between them in a way. So
yeah, I mean, it can be anything. There's the thing. I cannot figure out the program for, you know, every country. You can just make some loose thing, and then everyone can do something about it or not. So, you know, like.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing is, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. So I think the interesting thing about, I guess it's like complex and simple, isn't it? You know, really, we're just trying to make the infrastructure for people to come into. Like at the moment, you know, we've got all of these people here, you know, which is kind of a bit like what you're saying. You're like, you know, we're doing it, and it's like people coming here, we're kind of discussing things, we're kind of starting to think about workshops kind of potentially long before the EASA has actually begun, you know, and hopefully maybe around 6 months towards the event, you know, more people can come and do a bit more rigorous research and things like that. We can get the Reality Labs idea continuing to a degree, or like build on that. But then, yeah, I guess you're right. There's like, it's kind of like we're building the infrastructure and hoping people will start to come at this, and we're still like in the process of building that infrastructure. Like it's not all there, like, you know, but we've got like, yeah, space that they've agreed in London that people can use, and we've got a space in Sheffield that people can use. That's all of kind of like, but then we haven't used even ourselves one of those spaces.
Oh, yeah.
Projects. Yeah, we went in there for a little while.
The bid was created. That was the first.
Oh yeah, in the House of Nectar, the
Yeah.
bid was created. So yeah, maybe yeah, the kind of the Reality Labs kind of agenda ties in nicely. But in terms of how many people engage and how they engage with that, like I guess we'll have to see the response from people and like what we need to kind of like organize people what they want to do. Yeah.
I think it's also in some of these cases, it's perhaps it's also about putting our aims at a, let's say, like a humble enough goal at the beginning, because to expect that these things will take off like massively from the get-go is probably not a thing. Whereas it may be that it's something that grows over time, and it becomes this hub while it lives longer, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's the first, like, then it's a kind of starting point, but it may be something where, yeah, even if it were just for the region here with all the, what's the word for, it's British Isles, or how do you call it?
Yeah,
Like all the
British
yeah.
Isles, yeah.
So they have like a couple of hubs where at least all of the countries from the British Isles can come together and do meetings or smaller scale events. That already would be something incredible. So I don't know. For me, sometimes it feels like we have a lot of potential in these things, but perhaps we don't need to overshoot them as well. Like have a humble enough goal at one point and then see what happens. But
Yeah.
And I guess the complexity is like keeping it simple at a local level and then linking it up with everyone else who's keeping it simple at their local level. And that's a very complex thing in itself. It doesn't, not every thing is easy complex. Like,
yeah, it's the thing that you mentioned as well with Bulgaria, Marina. Like EASA Bulgaria has this, like we know that they have this massive thing happening in their part, and it's only Bulgaria, but still we agree that it's a beautiful thing, and it's really great that they've managed to do so.
Yes. I mean, I also think like if, you know, what have happened like now, we were almost afraid that this whole pandemic is gonna also negatively affect on EASA, that EASA will like stop existing because people somehow lost touch with each other, some NCs were lost and so on, and everyone started to make their own thing, you know. That did happen a bit, but then we still have the EASA. So now I'm just like thinking that it would be good if we create some, you know, we have this EASA network website, but to create like the whole, you know, like information about everything, what is going on everywhere, not just following the main event, but somehow to create some sub networks of things, so people can also follow up those things that came out of EASA. And that, you know, like I think that a very big problem is this whole communication, and additionally to that, like 1,000 Facebook groups, like and this chat, that chat, and it's just like no one is really, you know. But you know, some people take it and they do it, but it has to be continuous in a way. You cannot like stop for 5 years. So that's some problem that we should solve in a way. Like, but yeah.
Even this kind of thing of like COVID, it's actually helped because you said like you were afraid that it's gonna kind of break off. In a way, it brought us together more, I would say, because I mean, before 2020 we barely used to like nobody use Zoom and you know all this stuff. So the fact that even now we're like meeting, I can meet online with you guys rather than physical, because I couldn't come physically because of my commitments, but I mean there's still this form of sort of collaboration which makes it easier nowadays also. So even if these events are like a mixed thing, which is not just physical but also online, it could help as well, you know. It doesn't have to be like a physical space, it could be a virtual space.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we haven't even taken everyone to the space that we've been allowed to use in Sheffield, so maybe I don't know.
we should do that.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. And like start to like establish some activity there. It's just
We have a space.
Yeah,
We have a location.
It's like, no,
It's like-
it's just, well, you can describe it.
It's just that space.
Yeah, it's like it's an old like office space that's on the high street, sort of like above a shop, and like all like construction company offices. So there's like actually a lot of rooms in there. I don't know what
20 people.
yeah, like they have like a program of different artists that are going to come in and use the space throughout the year, and so they kind of said that we can be one of those groups that uses that space. But at the moment it's empty, and it would be nice to like begin populating it, like to know how much we can like claim it, like, and then if we're there at the same time as other groups and artists, that might be like productive to be in the same space. It's like what they do in the House of Annetta in London. We've also like said we can use some of the desk space. They have like a number of different groups working on like land reform, land justice, inside the same building. So like, I don't know, that proximity like helps.
But how does it work? Like they just give you the space?
Yeah, well,
It's
no, it's kind of like linked with, so the House Venetta's an Assemble project. So I work closely with Fran, but she also is a co-tutor for AB workshop in, so we were talking about this, like the proposal over a longer period. And then she was like, yeah, of course you guys can have a space in the land justice reform like centre. So we're like, cool, that's great. And then there's another kind of artist group called Block Project that they're taking on a Meanwhile You space, and they are kind of looking for kind of artists and groups to fill that space, you know. So they're kind of like initiatives that like people are setting up and things like that, that I think what we're doing like fits quite neatly in with that, like, you know. So, and also probably can help those things as well. It's not like we're not like taking on the space at this point for the Reality Lab stuff. Like if people want to come to the UK and do kind of like some initial research on, you know, in Sheffield, camp out a week or do things like that, there are like going to be spaces available for people to do that kind of stuff in the future and the lead up to the event, you know. So like, but that isn't necessarily like the space we might create, or the, you know, the like infrastructure for it. There are roads, you know, like.
But then if you have, if you have an ongoing relationship with a different like organization, then why couldn't like a Reality Lab exist as like as us using their space? Like we don't necessarily have to like have an entire building.
Yeah. In most cases, it's all about commoning.
Yeah.
Common space.
People love